In the last video in this series, I poured these 2 rows of concrete footings. And if we take a closer look here, you can see that I installed a whole new row of beams and the posts right there. And because in the past I have made fully dedicated videos about how I removed the old beams, installed the new beams and the posts, I'm just going to time lapse through all of the installation process of those 2, because those of you that have been closely watching this series know all about that. And if you don't know, you can feel free to go back and check out those other videos, which are, as I said, all about how I did all this: posts, beams. It's a lot of the same process over and over again. But there is something a little different about these 2 rows that I did want to show you guys. And one of those differences is because of all this plumbing right here that goes up into the kitchen sink. You can see how this hot water line that goes up in the floor is right up against this beam that I put in here. And this beam is a 4x6, just like the old ones that I took out. But the new beams are 6x7. So I had to kind of do some funky stuff here. You see this post is 6 inches wide, but this is only 3.5 inches wide. So I did some shimming and custom stuff there. 4x6 post and beam to avoid those water pipes, and then the rest of it is the same. And if we transition over to this side, this is an old 4x6. Unlike all the other rows that I've been doing, and I've been removing the old beam and putting a new beam in its place, but I did not do that right here. And standing here from the outside, you can kind of see how this is the main structure of the cabin. That's where it's the heaviest, and that ends right there. And from this point that way, that is a deck. So with this beam being as heavy as it is and being as complex of a situation as it is, with this one being here and then this plate providing support for the deck boards there's just a lot of fasteners that I would have had to cut through and remove. So I checked it with the laser level, and luckily for me, this old beam is almost perfectly level all the way down the line. Unlike these other rows over here, they were really wonky and really far out of level. That's why I wanted to replace all of them, so I'd have a nice level floor when I was done. Since this one is in pretty good shape, it's not rotten, it's nice and level, I figured why go through all the hassle and dangerous work that it would take to remove that and replace it with a new one. Why don't I just remove the old posts, put these new ones in here, even though it's a little bit big. There's a little bit of an overhang here, but there's nothing wrong with that. So I used the level and I used the jacks to get these new posts in place, get that beam level with the other ones. So now the entire cabin is sitting at the same level grade, and it's really, really nice. I'm super happy with how this turned out. So the original plan was to do all new post and beam foundation underneath the entire thing. So I would just keep going just like I have done there and there with these final 2 rows. But a few days ago, it started pouring down rain. And this is something that I thought about before, but I didn't know how serious of a problem it was going to be until we got that downpour. What ends up happening when it rains really hard is the grade is not optimal here. So all the rainwater collects on the driveway and works its way down underneath the cabin, which is going to undermine the foundation. All of this hard work that I did, it's just not a good situation. So what I'm going to end up doing is having a friend of mine, Mark, build a block wall along the entire front here, and then 8 feet here and 8 feet on the other side. That's going to allow me to, when all is said and done, backfill against the front of the cabin here and achieve proper grade for proper drainage so that water doesn't make its way underneath the cabin. Hopefully that will make a lot more sense by the end of this video, but let's just get to work here. Starting the process of getting things ready for Mark to build that block wall. Now that I got those deck boards out of there and I've revealed that area that we're gonna need to have access to, I'm gonna pull out the laser and set it up and figure out my benchmark grade before I start digging for that footing. I did all the thinking about this last night, by the way. I drew up these designs, calculated everything so that today I could just come out here with the tape measure and dig and not have to think too much. Okay, so we gotta go down 1, 2, 3, 4.5 inches. So it got dark pretty fast last night, but I wanted to dig out this front part in front of the deck so that when it pours down rain like it's doing right now-ish, what was happening before with the water rushing towards the underside of the cabin, I wanted to block that off. So I got that goal achieved here. Now I'm gonna do the fine tuning. You drop. Okay. Go get him. That's close enough for depth right now, and that's about wide enough there. Yeah, we're just roughing it in right now. Close enough for now. Really good there. Now it's ready to be jacked up. Oh, motherfucker. Okay, I think I'm ready to put these temporary beams in place. This is what it looks like from outside. It might be kind of hard to tell from the footage that you just saw, but I got the blocks there, there, and there. So all that's happening underneath, and I'm gonna put those beams in right about here so it's out of the way of the footing that's eventually gonna be poured there. Oh, come on. Whew. Oh my gosh. That worked. Like a glove, man. Oh yeah, something like that. Whew. All right, that was not very fun, but I got those in place. I got to do a little bit of fine tuning to make sure those are nice and straight. And then luckily underneath this deck, the way that I built it, there's these small floor joist thingies, so I don't have to put a whole beam underneath there. I can just put a jack directly under where those joists are. That will provide sufficient support. So a few more blocks and jacks to go. Okay. Gee. Oh, shit. Now those two temporary beams are tied together. That makes me feel a lot better about the stability of that setup. And now I gotta set one more jack, and I think that is going to be it for today. Definitely. Definitely done after that for the day. All right, I finished putting that last block and jack in place with just enough time to come down here with Mia and get some playtime in before the sun goes down. Unfortunately, this time of the year, it gets dark really early. By 5 o'clock, it's gonna be pitch black. So not as much daylight, the days are shorter. So gotta try and accomplish as much as I can while I can. And if I was inside all day just looking out the window, I would think, man, what a miserable day it was, because it was just dark and rainy. But when you're actually outside working in it, it wasn't that bad. Luckily, I had the overhang of the roof and I got the gutters installed on those roofs, so I didn't get too wet, and I was working underneath for most of it. So overall, really good day. it stopped raining now. The sky's actually opening up right before the sun goes down. It's really beautiful right now. There's beauty in all weather conditions and climates. You just gotta look for it. And for me, in my eyes, it's always easy to find here in the Pacific Northwest. Shout out to the Pacific Northwest gutter guys, Tyler and Sage. They make it look way easier than it is to put gutters together. That was really difficult. I could tell she was just wet and cold and miserable, so no sense in keeping her out here with me when it's warm and dry inside. Here's a closer look at this front sill beam. It's really bad. I knew about this ever since I bought the cabin. First thing I did was rebuild that deck, and I knew because there was no gutters on here before, so the rainwater was just dropping off the roof, splashing off the ground and soaking everything along here. So this replacement and everything that I'm doing here has been a long time coming. Now I'm gonna start threading these jacks under here, lift this front of the cabin up just enough to where these little posts will shake. All right, we got wigglage. Wiggle there, wiggle there, wiggle there. Now that part's up. Next I'm gonna do this. This is pretty light, so it shouldn't take much. It didn't take much for those ones down here. This one, pretty much ready. It's got a little bit more pressure, but it's right on the corner, so. To the rock pit, and it will not stop raining. It is just pouring. It's crazy. $10 for that rock. What do you think? What do you think about that, girl? 10 bucks? Not too shabby. Okay, back. Get back, girl. Back. Good girl.
Made a cigarette.
Okay. We back, girl. We back. So the whole time we've been gone, it has just been absolutely pouring. And look at what we got going on here. Luckily, my wall of dirt has kept all this from rushing down under the cabin, but it's getting sketchy looking. I'm going to spend a little bit of time shoveling some dirt, making this taller over here because that's way too high. I need to just make sure this doesn't flood overnight, because right now this is in really good shape. The moisture of the dirt right where the footing is going to go is actually perfect. I wouldn't want it any more wet or any more dry than it is right now. So I'm going to do what I can before it gets dark, which is not very much time, to make sure that things stay the way that they are right now. You want to go inside, girl? You want to go inside? Yeah. Let's finish up. It continued to rain pretty hard last night, but we avoided disaster. No flooding happened. The wall of dirt did its job. If you notice a downgrade in the quality of the video from now until the end, it's because this GoPro finally crapped out on me. Looks like it's got some internal water damage, and it just starts recording on its own, stops recording. So we're using the old backup GoPro. It's a Hero 7 Gray, so still records in 4K though. So I've used it in a similar scenario in a video a few months ago, so it still gets the job done. It's not too bad. So let's get back to work. It makes me feel a little better. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, I'm still alive. Okay. Still alive. All of you who saw what I did on the back sill beams of the cabin know what I'm doing here. I've removed these rotten pieces. They're not as rotten as the back were, but definitely not ideal. And I'm gonna replace it with this new 2x4. It'll be like a double bottom plate of this wall. And then the 7-inch beam is gonna be under here to support both the wall framing and then these deck boards, because it's a 7-inch beam, 3.5 inches of support here, 3.5 inches of support over here. Oh my God, sunshine is coming out. I can't believe it. It does still exist. All right, we got an 8-foot section of this 20-foot beam that was all one piece, but I'm gonna work in 8-foot sections here just for safety purposes. And even though it'll float on its own, I got one jack right here on the corner for safety, and the only other jack I've got is this big railroad jack here that I haven't used on this project yet. I'm using up all my smaller jacks right here and all the way down there, so I don't have any more. I just have a little bit of pressure applied to this one. It's really cool the way it works. It's not very graceful at all though. So you gotta lift this up. This is how you drop it down, like this. Boom. It just happens all at once. And you can jack it pretty precisely. And I want to go just a little bit. A little bit of pressure there. And it stays right there. And you just lift this up, set it in that position, and it's ready to drop back down. Boom, like that. So we're just going to keep it right here with a little bit of pressure, just like that. Get those teeth engaged, and then we'll cut the rest. Boom. Down she goes. Okay, well that part was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, but I got it done. Removing the old beams, replacing that old deck boards with this part, and now we can finally use that gravel that I got yesterday and fill it in here. I have to do a little bit of dirt work before I put the gravel in there, and then we'll set the laser up and make sure everything's good and compacted, and that is all probably going to take way longer than I think. Okay, the idea here is put a single layer of this bigger rock. That's why I got this stuff, so that I can use that concrete pier to compact that rock as the base layer. That should be really close to grade. Maybe it might be exact grade. I don't need very much gravel. And then I'll use the smaller stuff that I got to just put a real light layer on top of everything, and that'll go in all the cracks and crevices, help lock everything in place. That way, this first layer has those bigger rocks that will mold into the dirt, and then the second layer of rock has the smaller rocks that will mold into the bigger rocks, and that'll give me a nice base for the wall that's going to be built here. All right, everybody, that's what it looks like so far. This spot right here is done. That's the grade. It's compacted. I still got to do this in front of the cabin and then around the other corner, but I am completely out of time. I did everything I could to edit all this footage as quickly as I could. Okay, everybody, I'm hitting her with the sneak attack. She's gonna be in the conclusion of the video whether she likes it or not. It's the lovely Julie, everybody. I could not have finished this video without her, because she came here on her off day and she spent her off day making me breakfast and lunch so that I could edit the video and do everything that it would take to finish it, to get it out by this Sunday. And Mia was her normal distracting self. All right, well, we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye. Thanks for watching. See ya.